We are in part 3 and closing out our series called Killin' It, where we are trying to identify pride in our lives and find a way to destroy pride. So today, we're going to wrap that up. And again, this isn't the pride that we take in our children where they perform well in an event. It's a pride that causes us to actually yell at our children when they don't perform the way that we think they ought to perform. It isn't the pride that you take in the work that you're done. It's the pride that causes you to celebrate when somebody at work gets in trouble or is delayed in their project, or something goes wrong. Isn't that ugly? But yeah, it's in all of us. Something happens at work with the person that got your promotion, and now you're happy at the fact that they're not doing well, or somebody loses in an event that you wish you were a part of, and there you are rejoicing. It's ugly. It's in all of us. But it's the pride, like we said, we've been saying all series, that diminishes us. Right? That makes us smaller. It shuts you, and it has the potential to shut God and others out of the room. It's the pride that causes you to be so big and puffed up that everybody feels like they're in a corner around you. Like when you get into an argument with a person that you love, is the pride that causes you not to talk for a couple of days or a couple of hours. Has anybody ever been there? Don't lie. Okay, just me and my wife, right? So it's that kind of pride. It's the pride that doesn't allow you to say the things that you ought to say because the emotion is so heavy, or to hear what needs to be said, or sometimes even do the things that need to be done that you know are right, because pride is holding you captive. So I want us to get into the habit of calling it out. And last week we talked about the 3 P people. These were the people that had some power, some prestige, and some possessions. And we talked about how that's really all of us to one extent or another. And if it's not you right now, at some point in your life, you will have some level of power or prestige. We all have possessions more than we know. And we concluded last week with what Nebuchadnezzar learned, and later his grandchild, that the Most High is sovereign over all the kingdoms of the earth and gives them to whoever he chooses. We landed at the point that, hey, everything that we receive is from God. He gives it to us. He could take it away. And so we should live open-handed, realizing that everything that comes into our hand is not just for us to grab and take, but if we live open-handedly, God can place and God will take as he sees fit. And today, I want to talk about a different kind of pride, and this pride that I'm going to talk about today is actually an appetite, and it's the appetite for known. It's the appetite for known. It's the appetite that we all have. It's in you. It's in me to be known. And before you say that this isn't for you, the truth is it's in all of us. It's in me and it's in you, because we all have an audience in mind when we get dressed in the morning, right? We were thinking about who's going to see us and how they're going to view the things that we put on. We all have an audience in mind when we're at work and we're interacting with our coworkers. We all have an audience in mind in the neighborhood when we interact with people, how you mow your lawn, how you decorate your house, how you keep your car. We all have an audience in mind. We all have an audience in mind when we're in school or in our fraternity or sorority. Wherever we are, there's always somebody that we are acting for, or we are moving for, or we are living for. And all of us want to be known for something, and all of us want to be known by somebody, and we all have an appetite for known, to be known, an appetite to be friended, specifically in social media, but in real life also, to be followed, to be liked, to be mentioned. Nobody hates to be mentioned when somebody's giving a speech and somebody is up receiving an award and they say, "But Angela's just such a great sister." Oh, what a good feeling when somebody mentions your name. But if you thought that was a kiddie list, I'll give you an adult list. We all have the desire to be recognized, right? This is the grown-up list. We want to be recognized at work. We want to be recognized by our peers, of course. We want to be admired. We want to be sought after. We want to be, the bottom line is we want to be envied. And that's something we don't talk about often, but we have this desire, this appetite to be envied. That's why you bought the car that you did, and that's why you perhaps keep it clean the way you do. That's why right before your husband walks out the door, you say, "Honey, come here, that still does not match. And you should not wear it. It didn't match last time you tried to put it on. It doesn't match this time." And so that's why you send him back to the room and say, why don't you put on those black pants that I got you, right? That's why if we're going out together, you and me, I don't want you to look like an idiot. Right? Because you reflect poorly on me, and I want people to envy me. I don't want them to pity me because of the way that you look. Nobody's smiling. Okay, so right, that's the reason. When I'm about to go out, my wife looks and checks me out and just makes sure that I'm wearing what I'm wearing, because I'm going to represent her. I'm going to be an extension of her, and vice versa. The truth is that there's something in all of us. We want people at some level to envy us, right? We want the applause, like Lady Gaga. I guess we all live for the applause. And it started young. It started when we were growing up. We wanted mom and dad's attention. I don't know if you're a parent here, you understand this, but you'll have your little one say, hey, daddy, look. Daddy, look. And you're like, yeah, I'm looking. Or mom, look. And I'm like, okay, I'm looking. And it's the same thing every time. And you want to tell them, okay, I saw you jump on the couch sideways 18 times. It's the same thing. Or they'll be in the pool and they'll say, Daddy, look. And they jump in the water. Yeah, you jumped in the water. You went underneath. You came back up. It's been the same thing the last 17 times that you've said, hey, Daddy. But it starts then. We want the approval. We want somebody to notice, right? And some of us got that and some of us didn't, but none of us got enough of it. And at the end of the day, as much as it's a mommy look, a lot of us just need, hey, a dad look. And some of us didn't get, hey, daddy look, and we didn't get dad looking back because dad was absent. And so we all have this desire for more, to be known by somebody. And then we grew up, and then it wasn't just mom and dad, it was a coach, or it was a teacher, where we would say, hey, look at me perform, look at my grades, look at my assignment. And we want to perform for our friends, and it's a set of friends perhaps that you want to perform for. It's that boy or that girl that you have in mind when you get dressed or when you try to participate in whatever you're doing. And now we're adults, and the audience is a little bit different. We have a different group that we're trying to live for their applause. Maybe it's your husband, or maybe it's your wife, or maybe it's your boss, or somebody that you work with. For some of you, you live for the applause of your children, and that could be a little bit dangerous. And this can get us in a lot of trouble, and here's why. It's because this appetite to be known, it's an appetite. And let me tell you 3 things about appetites. The first thing is that God created your appetites, but sin distorts your appetite. The things that we yearn for and long for, all of them are God-given. But what God intended for good, obviously the enemy will try to work out for bad. And so God created them, and sin always distorts them. The second thing I want to tell you about appetites, and this might be the reason that you came, appetites are never fully and finally satisfied. Appetites are never, you feed an appetite, what happened? It gets bigger, it wants more. Think about Thanksgiving, right? You had an appetite that morning and you ate and you thought that was going to be my last meal for the week. And 3 hours later, what happened? You're eating again, right? Because your appetites are never fully and finally satisfied. Their favorite word is more, right? Your appetite's favorite word is I want more of that. They always come back. They're no good They're not good for filtering your decision making. Your appetites are. You can't make a decision based on the things that you have appetites for. There will always be a tension around them. We think there is something, there is somebody, there is a place that we will reach, a relationship we'll have. We think there might be some money that we'll make that will cause us to be satisfied. But all these things are appetites, and appetites are never fully and finally satisfied. You get the friend that you wanted, all of a sudden you want more friends. You reach this level of likes, then you want more likes. You reach this level of financial freedom and you want more, because appetites are never fully and finally satisfied. And finally, the third thing I want to tell you about your appetites is that your appetites always say now. They never wait till later. Your appetites always whisper now, and they never say later. What I'm saying by that is your appetite will cause you to give up what you want most for what you want now. Your appetites will always have you give up what you want most for what you can have right now. And I'll give you an example. Let's say, for instance, right now, for later in life, you want, the goal is to buy a house. You want to buy a house. That's what you're shooting for. That's what you want. But there is a phone that you really, really want now. So your appetite for having the new technology or being caught up with the Jones or being caught up with the people that you look at, or having somebody that somebody could say, oh man, you're not up on that. This is what you need to have. That desire, that appetite is going to cause you to do something that you don't really want to do, because what you really want is later and not now. And if you're ruled and controlled by that voice that says yes, a little bit more, ultimately, you and I experience loss. And at the end of the day, you will never hear, I have enough friends, come out of anybody's mouth, or have enough fans. I want to be recognized. I don't want to be recognized for anything. We all like to see our name up in lights. We all like to see our name in print. We all like to see our name highlighted. But there is no amount of known that will satisfy your appetite to be known for the things you have determined you want to be known for. Now, for some of it, it's different for all of us. So whatever area it is in your life that you want to be known for, that appetite will never be satisfied. It will never be quenched, because the moment you achieve that goal, your appetite will want more. Are you hearing what I'm saying? Your appetites are never fully and finally satisfied. I'll tell you a story. So typically, whenever I preach, okay, I don't like when people give me feedback right away. I can't handle the feedback right away. I'm just not good at having the feedback. Like if I'm done preaching and you have some negative to say, don't tell me. Tell me another day. Tell me tomorrow. At that moment, I really don't want to hear it. But I always want feedback from certain people. Like certain people I want feedback from. One of the people that I like feedback from is my wife. My wife gives me on-the-moment feedback. She's giving me, as I'm speaking right now, she's giving me feedback. You don't know it. You don't recognize it, right? But I am receiving constant feedback from my wife, whether it's one of these, or like one of those, or like one of these, or like one of these, right? I'm always getting feedback from my wife, and I love getting feedback from her, because I know she has my best interest at heart. I know that she loves me. I know that she wants the best for me for what I'm doing right now. So her intention is not just to hype my ego up or puff my ego, make me feel real good, but the goal is, hey, are you saying something that's good? So it was funny because last week, I didn't think it was one of my best messages by far. Like I could count probably 50 messages that I preached throughout my life that I thought were better than last week. But Nina came up to me last week. She was like, babe, last week, your message was awesome. It's the best message I've ever heard you speak. And I'm like, the best? And I'm here thinking about all the messages I've done. I've been at this since I was 18. I'm thinking, the best one? And so she said that, and I'm hearing her talk, and I'm just like a little dog, just, yeah, give me more. Yeah, like, give me more praise. I'm just loving the fact that she's talking about it. I went back and listened to the message just to find out what it was that I did. I was like, I want to do that again. I don't think I'm going to be able to do that again, but I will try my hardest. But I want that. Our appetite for known is powerful. And so whenever Angelina or some of the people that I want that feedback from don't give me the feedback, I get a little weird. I'm like, did I say something wrong? Did I say something that was not in the Bible? I always say stuff that's not in the Bible. But I mean, did I say stuff that is anti-God? Like that God would look down on me and be like, that's not why I sent you down here, right? I'm always curious and wondering about that, but when I get that feedback, if I don't get it, then I have the potential to get weird. If somebody doesn't feed that, I have the ability and the potential and the tendency to get weird, and it has that potential to make me strange. But fortunately for you and for I, in the New Testament, there is a story that I want to dive in today for a couple of minutes that addresses not how not to be known, because I think being known is from God, and desire for people to know who you are and what you have, and for you to be completely yourself with somebody. I think that's a God thing. But like I said earlier, I think sin has the potential to distort that. So fortunately for us, there's a story where we gain extraordinary insight and help. And it's from John the Baptist. So we're going to do a little test right here real quick. Raise your hand if you've ever heard of John the Baptist. Just raise your hand. That's my point. Look around. That's 95% of us. The other people are just too cold to raise their hand. But 95% of us have heard of John the Baptist. So it's not like he was not known. Okay, so the goal here is not for me to say, don't be known. This is a guy that was known. But what we're going to learn from this story is how to manage the tension of wanting to be known and what God would have us do when we are known. It's the right attitude that we should have when things come our way that perhaps we don't deserve. And so here we go. We're going to talk about that a little bit. It's found in Mark chapter 1. Now, the story of John the Baptist is in a couple of different gospels, so I'm going to piece it together. What I try to do is just do the whole story as a whole. So I'm going to jump from book to book just so I can get you the whole story. Okay, so that's where we're going. Mark chapter 1, verse 4 through 5. And it says like this, if you have your Bibles. Verse 4 says, "And so John the Baptist appeared in the wilderness," okay, "preaching a baptism of repentance for the forgiveness of sin." And verse 5 says, "The whole Judean countryside and all the people of Jerusalem went out to see him." And that strikes me, the whole Judean countryside, all the people. So I don't think this is hyperbole. I really think there was a lot of people, maybe not every single person in Jerusalem, but at worst, there were thousands of people that were coming out to see John the Baptist. This wasn't just a handful of women like we see in the movies, just washing some clothes here and making some food over here. No, this was a lot of people, and it was not an easy or a safe journey. You had to make it a day's thing. If you're going to go see John the Baptist speak, you were going to go and you were going to be there all day, and then you were going to come back because it was quite a journey to get there. So it was a big deal. It took an entire day. And verse 15 says that John testified concerning him. He cried out saying, "This is the one." Yeah. So John testified concerning him. He cried out saying, "This is the one I spoken about when I said, 'He who comes after me has surpassed me because he was before me.'" So that's kind of confusing. You think I'm confused. So this is what John was saying. John testified concerning Jesus, concerning him. And he cried out saying, "This is the one that I spoke about when I've said, 'He who comes after me,'" so who's going to come after me, "'it's greater or has surpassed me or is greater than me because he came before me.'" So Jesus, he was saying, look, this guy that's about to come, he's greater because he was actually here before I was here. So let me keep talking. Now, this was John's testimony when the Jewish leaders in Jerusalem sent priests and Levites to ask him who he was. So that's what he said. And in verse 20, he said, "He did not fail to confess, but confessed freely," because they wanted to know, well, are you the Messiah? Because that's who we was waiting for. You have this big crowd. Are you the one that we've been waiting for? And John says plainly, "I am not the Messiah." In verse 20, verse 21, they asked him, "Then who are you? Are you Elijah?" Because in the book of Malachi, it was prophesied that when the Messiah came, all right, he would be like an Elijah figure. He'd be a prophet. And so they thought maybe, some people said he was going to be reincarnated. Some just thought that he would have his same kind of disposition. But nevertheless, that's where we are. Verse 22, he said, "I'm not. Are you a prophet?" He answered, "No." Finally, they said, "Then who are you? What do you say about yourself?" And here it was, his moment to declare who he was, to say who he was, for people to hear what he wanted them to know about himself. They want to know. And John replied in the words of Isaiah the prophet, "I am a voice of one calling in the wilderness, make straight the way of the Lord." So John, who are you? I'm just kind of like a directional marker. You look at me, I'm just kind of like a sign that points in the right direction. I'm not the one you're looking for. I'm just one that points the way to the one that you want to see. I've got all this knownness so that I can make him known. I attract people so that I can point him in the right direction. And look at the attitude of John the Baptist. Thousands of people coming to see him. He was actually the first person to ever baptize people. Before him, there was nobody dunking people in the water. No, people would do ceremonial cleanings and ceremonial washings to be clean, but John was the first one. And here he is with all this recognition, with all this influence, with thousands of people coming to see him, wondering, is he the guy? And he was saying, no, I am not the guy. I'm the guy that's pointing at the guy to come. And I'm saying, make straight the way for the Lord. I'm simply to draw a crowd so that I can point the crowd in the direction of the one that was before me, who comes after me. Verse 24. Now the Pharisees who had been sent questioned him, "Why then do you baptize if you're not the Messiah?" That's a fair question. "Nor Elijah, nor the prophet." In verse 26, he says, "I baptize you with water," John replied, "but among you," wait a minute, "in this crowd, among you, stands one you do not know." He's already pointing. "He is the one who comes after me, the straps of whose sandals I am not worthy to untie. The next day, John saw Jesus coming towards him and said, now look, here's him pointing the way. Look, I'm just a marker. Look, the Lamb of God, and this is a famous verse, you might have heard it in some songs. The Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world. The next day, John was there again with two of his disciples. When he saw Jesus passing by, he said, look, there he goes again, he's just pointing the way. I got all this crowd, I got all this influence, I got all these things going for me. I am all these things, but I'm doing it so that I could point to somebody who is greater than me. Look, the Lamb of God, verse 36. When the two disciples heard him say this, they followed Jesus. Wow. You ever been unfollowed, unfriended? Has somebody left you to go with somebody better? Have you ever been divorced because your spouse left you for somebody who in their eyes was better than you? Have you ever been unfollowed by somebody? Have you ever been unfriended in real life, not on social media? That doesn't hurt as much. But in real life, has somebody ever rolled up to you and said, listen, I just don't want to be friends with you no more. I don't want you in my life. I don't want to continue rolling with you. So verse 37, when the two disciples heard him say this, they followed Jesus and decided to unfollow John. Now, can you imagine this is bothering the people that are John's disciples, because they're saying, wait a minute, he's got the crowd now. They're leaving from us to him. We need to do something. We need to change our location. We need to make baptism portable. Maybe get a pool of some sort and go closer to Jerusalem and find a way where we could keep the crowd. But that was not John's heart. In verse 26, they came to John and said to him, Rabbi, that man, like you're a rabbi, we don't know who he is, but that man that you were talking about, verse 26, who was with you on the other side of the Jordan, the one you testified about, look at him. He has the crowd now. He's baptizing. He's doing what you were doing first, but you was doing it first, and now he's doing it. He's copying you. You are the baptizer. We don't know who he is. Verse 26. And everyone is going to him. Everybody is going to him. Now, you ready for this? This next statement is what would allow you to have an infinite number of influence, an infinite number of friends and followers, and never let it go to your head. Better than that. This next statement has the potential to prepare all of us for the moment where we have fewer friends and fewer followers and less influence and less things that we can do. Because the time will come where perhaps you were the best at something and now you're no longer the best at that something. The time will come where you, in whatever area of your career, in whatever area of your influence, where you were the best at, there will come a time where you will no longer be the best at that area. There will come a time, right, where your children will decide, well, I don't want to live at home no more. And you have been mom and dad all your life, and all of a sudden there will come a time where you will not be, you will always be mom and dad, but you will not have them in your home. When there's a new kid on the block that arrives, when a prettier version or a more talented version or a smarter version, the one who makes your perhaps sales figure look like you are a rookie, because it happens. You were that not too long ago. This idea prepares us for the day when we are not the person, the star, or the one on stage. Suddenly our better days are behind us. So what do? What is our attitude? When now there are people doing better than we are, but we still have that appetite and that desire to be known and to be on top. What do you do? And this is what John said. Are you ready? And this is awesome. Verse 27, he says, to this John replied, verse 27, a person can receive only what is given them from heaven. A person can receive only what is given them from heaven. Listen. This is a verse that has the potential to ground you in a good way. It has the potential to hold you, to secure you. When you realize that whatever the other person has, they have because God gave it to them. And that all that people have is whatever God wants them to have. it kind of puts us in a place where we can just back up and say, well, God, you know what? If that's my lot in life, then so be it. If I had that for a season, then so be it. If my season is coming to an end, well, then so be it. But if my season is starting, well, I know I just have it because you gave it to me. And it's a stewardship. And it's not going to be mine forever. And at some point, I'm going to have live open-handed and let it go. And be able to say, God, here is what you gave me. The Most High. Does that sound familiar? It sounds like the Most High again is sovereign over all the kingdom and gives them to whoever he wishes. Known is a temporary stewardship from God. Whatever knownness you have, whatever people know you for, that is possible. Whatever is good, whatever you're the best at, whatever people look to you for advice for, that is temporary. Credit, recognition, status, influence, all your gifts. They're a combination of things we have little control over, right? Because at any moment, God can say, well, the time is up. At any moment, God can say, you have them no longer. Verse 28 says, you yourself can testify that I said, I am not the Messiah, but I am sent ahead of him. My knownness is about his knownness. So I think what God, through John the Baptist, is trying to teach us is this. Listen, whatever you want to be known for, whatever appetite you have that cannot be quenched, the way to manage that tension between wanting to be known and then wanting to be meek and humble and give glory to God, the answer is found in living a life with your hands open, where you realize everything I have comes from him. And if he doesn't give it to me, I'm not going to have it. And I could try to earn it, and I could try to work for it, and I could try to grasp and reach for it, but it's God at the end of the day who holds my life in his hands. And while I think I may have control over all the things that I think I have control over, God has given me this lot in life. Well, I'm just trying to break this financial figures right here, and I'm trying to break it, and I'm trying to break it. But if God does not give it to you, know that there's a reason for your life. So I'm not saying don't work, not saying don't strive, but I am saying no. That God is sovereign. God is sovereign. And perhaps your lot in life is not what you dreamed or imagined, or maybe your lot in life is bigger than what you ever thought or dreamed or imagined. You have more influence than you ever thought you would, or you have more possessions than you ever thought you would, or you're in a place where you're like, I love my life. Know that at any moment, everything that we have can be taken from us. How much control do we really have? And the idea that God is the one that gives. Like John answered, a person can receive only what is given them from heaven. So whatever you have has been given. Don't get too cocky because you look good. It's been given to you by heaven. And one day you're not going to look as good. One day your hair will fall off, maybe. Right? One day your waist will be a little larger than it is right now. Maybe. One day you might make less than you do now. You might not be as athletic as you are now. One day you're going to have less than you do now. So what do you do when all of a sudden you have less? You have to realize that what you have right now is given to you. Your good looks are given to you for a reason, right? Your influence, your gifts. But God is the giver of all gifts. And then he says something that I love it because Alex says it all the time when he prays. I don't know if he knows when he prays he says this verse. I don't even know if he knows that he's quoting this verse. But he says it all the time. I don't know where he heard it, maybe here. But verse 28 says, you yourself can testify that I said I'm not the Messiah, but am sent ahead of him. And verse 30 he says, he must become greater and I must become less. He must become greater and I must become less. It's about him. It's not about me. He must become greater. I decrease that he may increase. I decrease that he may increase. It's not about me. It's not about holding my ground. It's not about being the biggest person in the room. It's not about holding everybody's attention. It's not about being number one on the list. It's not about having all the sales. It's not about having the most friends or the most followers or the most influence or the most affluence. It's about him. And when we realize that God is in charge over everything that we have, that everything that we have is his, all of a sudden we begin to manage our pride because we know if we have it, comes from him. And there'll be a point where we won't have it because it's just a stewardship. So whatever you have now that you're so proud of, you're like, I'm the man at this, or I'm the woman at this, or I'm the best at this. Just know that it is a gift. Like Quincy is a great musician, but what if his hands stop working? How much control does he have of his hands working? No, it's God's. Emily has a great voice, but what if something happens to her vocal cords? How much control does she have? It is all a gift. And God is the giver of those gifts. What if Larry, with all his intellect, can't communicate anymore? Well, his communication is a gift from God, right? And so with you, and so with me. Verse 31, and I'll wrap it up. The one who comes from above is above all, and the one who is from earth belongs to the earth and speaks as one of the earth. Verse 31. The one who comes from heaven is above all. It's above all. It's above all. To be known, to be a known survivor, to survive this appetite for known, you got to remember this. You got to remember who it's from and who it's for. So who it comes from and ultimately who is for. Our known is for his renown. And I'll tell you a story and I'll wrap up. About 10 years ago, I had the opportunity to go to Paraguay with a missions team that my wife and I prepared. Nevertheless, we were in Paraguay, and Lewis's dad is a popular, well-known Christian rapper. He would be like the equivalent to perhaps a Kirk Franklin for us here. Like, we know who he is. He fills up stages. So in South America, he is very well known. And so we planned it out where he would have a concert there while we were there, and we would just kind of evangelize 2 weeks leading up to his deal. And we pass out flyers, go to all the public schools, and everybody opened their doors for us, and just kind of promote what we were doing, talk about God, do the whole thing, but then invite him to this concert, right? And so we did that. And the night of the event, there is 15 to 20,000 people at this concert. It was packed. It was like a sea of people. And I was so hyped because your pastor used to be a rapper. I was so hyped, right? I was so hyped. So it was 15 to 20,000 people. And then Funky and his band were in the back. And I know they weren't there to see me, but guess what? I got to open for 15 to 20,000 people. I was hyped. I wouldn't tell nobody, but inside, I was hyped. And I had these songs that I was getting ready to sing, to rap to, and I was so pumped. And here I go, it's my moment. I go up there. Everything goes perfect. The crowd is going, most of them knew the songs because we've been singing them through the week. It was just so great. It was a sea of people. I thought I killed it. I was like, I'm going to change careers. This is what I want to do the rest of my life, right? So anyway, so I perform in front of 15 to 20,000 people. If you've never been in front of that amount of a crowd, it is bananas. Absolutely bananas. So I get done opening for Funky. I thought I did a phenomenal job. I came down. I was hyped, for the glory of God, of course. I was hyped. And then his dad comes up, Funky raps, the whole place, banana. It was a great night. So all that evening and the next day, everybody's coming up to me, you did so good. That was awesome. I thought you did great. And I was like, that's fine and all, but there is one person that has yet to tell me in my mind what it is that I want to hear. And it wasn't Aunt Helena, because she wouldn't happen to be there that day. Okay? But I wanted to know how I did from the person who does that for a living. I was waiting to hear from Lewis's dad, hey, Hav, you did great. And I was just pending. Can you imagine? Like, I saw him that night. He didn't say nothing to me. He said, like, what's up? We were good. We were hanging out. But he did not acknowledge the fact that I went before him. And I killed it that day. He wasn't acknowledging the fact. I don't know if it was his pride that this guy who doesn't do it for a living killed it, but I destroyed the mic. There wasn't mic drop then, but I could have dropped the mic and walked away. It was that kind of an event. I'm telling you. From my vantage point, that's what it looked like. And so I'm here waiting, and what happens is the next day, we're eating breakfast, and you know, I'm here like kind of fishing for compliments, trying not to say nothing. Like, man, yesterday was good, man. Man, we did so good, man. I'm saying we, right? We did so good, right? Man, well, and I'm here talking to people, and he goes, hey, Hav, I meant to tell you, man, that was so good yesterday. What? Can you record? We didn't have phones. Can you record that and say it in the selfie? So the point was, the reason that I wanted to hear it from him so much is because although I was doing it for the Lord and all that, you know, he was really the person that I was doing it for, because he was the one that was there. It was his show. It was his thing. And I was looking and I was fishing for compliments, and I was just waiting to hear from him, because at that point, he was the person that mattered. And it got me to think, everywhere else that I have been after that incident, I just kind of felt like, well, God kind of sharing with me or teaching me, well, would you care about what I say? Is my opinion going to be the most important opinion? And while it's important to get feedback, and it's important to get praises from other people, and important for people to tell you, hey, you did a good job, that's great. But at the end of the day, it's really for an audience of one. And at the end of the day, when you guys are not here, when my wife is not there, when it's just me, I got to be able to say, well, God, are you happy with what I did? Are you happy with how I'm behaving at work? Are you happy with how I'm using my influence? Are you happy with the way that I'm living my life? Is the way that I'm treating my wife something that you find honor in? Is the way that I'm handling my kids something you find honor with? More important than Lewis's dad, although I love him. More important than my wife, although I love her. More important than Larry and Quincy and Tony and Alex, those people that I consider friends that I love. Right? More important than their things that they say to me, is God honored? Is God happy? Right? And that's the question that we all have to ask. We have to remember who it's from, and we have to remember who it's for. So when you're at work and you're killing it at work, you're doing a great job at work, remember who it's from and who it's for. When you feel pride rise up on the inside because you're in an argument, remember who that marriage is from and who that marriage is for. When you want to yell at your children and kick them in the neck, remember whose they are. And remember that we've been given a stewardship to raise them. Who is it for? And all of a sudden that has the ability to kind of bring us down and level us to a place where we could say, it is from you, it is really through your strength, and it is really for you. From you, through you, and to you. From you, through you, everything I have, back to you. Let me pray for you. Heavenly Father, I thank you for this opportunity to talk about something that's so hard to see in the mirror, pride. And Lord, I pray that you would help us as we do well in the different environments of our life, that you will help us identify when pride tries to take the remote control of our life and dictate how we should live. That we would be able to honor you, God. Help us to kill pride whenever we see it. And help us listen for your voice in the people in our lives that are telling you that are telling us that it's there. Help us be doers of your word and not just hearers of your word. We love you. We thank you. We bless you and honor you. In Jesus' name. Amen. Let's give God a hand. Amen. Amen. Okay, so things are going to be a little bit different today. Obviously, if you're a visitor, my wife and I want to meet you. Given stations to the left or right. We're going to break down and start putting the tables back up, or the kids are going to come and they're going to rehearse. And so I love you. God bless you. Next week is our last Sunday of the year. So come. We're looking forward to having you. We have something special planned. We love you, and we'll see you next week.